Okay.
And we went to the south to spend a short time and fell in love with the area. Memphis, I've been very fortunate. I've had just a great response from the Memphis area, and the process of needing a home base for the foundry, a friend of mine, Larry Luger, and myself, we built a foundry so we could do the casting. Because you have to have summers where you can do the transfer from clay to the bronze. And so we actually built a foundry in Earl, Arkansas. That has moved to East Tennessee, which is east of Memphis, about 20, 30 miles. This image of coming forth to man, I think, encapsulates the essence, I think, of what my sculpture is about. I try to start out with an idea, and that usually has maybe several sub-issues. It could be either religion, or it could be just the man's need to overcome his trials and tribulations. This piece itself, if you look at the bottom here, it's kind of a rectangle shape. There's a crack here. And this geometric form is growing out of this crack, and it goes from a geometric shape to starting to do more of organic, and then eventually it blossoms or grows into the human form. And if you look at the face, it's very stressful. And so you think, man and his need to overcome whatever that conflict in his life is, whether it be religious, his conflict, or his need for his family, for his friends. This is supposed to entail that whole realm of overcoming those issues, and hopefully be a very powerful statement. And the way you do that is, not only do you have to have the image, but you have to show it in the sense of the tension of the muscles and the strength, the way the clay is pulled, and the neck muscles, and the way the head's thrown back. Hopefully people sense that. Now, people may not be able to explain what they're looking at. They may not be able to put it in those art terms, but they understand when they see quality, or they see something that they can relate to. And they may not, like I said, and I'm not a poet, and I'm not a writer. So, I mean, my way of explaining these things is actually through the forms themselves. Use the human form, lines, shapes, and colors of the bronze to emphasize those concepts. So coming forth to man is trying to make that kind of a universal feeling. Probably the other most successful piece in this series is the other. I don't know if you just want to step down there. Actually, this piece is on a very long stem. Again, it starts with kind of an earthy kind of shape at the bottom. It's kind of a growing stem, bone shapes that eventually turn into an organic form at the top. But see how the muscles are really, they're almost distorted. And that creates a tension in your eye and your mind. And then regardless of whatever that tension might be or stress, just the pulling of the clay over these forms, your mind makes that connection for you. Regardless if you can verbalize it or not, you see that stress and that pull. So hopefully this one, along with several of the other coming forth to man, show that process of growing. And at some point, let me come in closer. At some point, the success of, I've made it as, a human being, I've conquered those fears, whatever that conflict may be. It's almost like doing a three-dimensional poem or a three-dimensional book. And you leave enough vagueness there that anyone can step and look at this and somehow relate to it themselves. If you write it out too detailed, then you've kind of destroyed the universal feeling that it might have. At some point, you have to let the viewer have their identification with the piece too. I mean, I have my personal feeling towards it, but I've had several people come up tonight to say, I feel the tension there. I mean, what you're trying to do is, and that's exactly now more of the coming forth of a man. He might be a savior type figure, but he may just be a man that overcame something in his own personal life. And so that leaves it open enough where anyone can interpret that without all these stories tied to it at all. As a sculptor, I try to develop beautiful forms And from the Perception of Woman series, again, it's not a complicated concept, but it just I went through a phase that I had probably 10 or 12 pieces that were based on the simple. It's not like putting a woman on a pedestal. I don't mean in that sense, but just the beautiful form in itself was worth expressing. So that's what the Perception of Woman series was primarily about.
The face is very expressive.
I may do variations of that concept over a period of 6 months or a year. The Perception of Woman actually was a series I did over a number, probably the longest extending series that I did. The very first one was the Sidewalk Fantasy piece, which is a relief over here. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. It was a multiple figures involved in some kind of passing fantasy, inner action between male and female figures, and not just in a sexual sense, but just the need for one person for another. Now that it's not profound, but I mean it's just a basic human need. So when I went from the Sidewalk Fantasy, I took that wider scope and focused in on a narrow of just say 2 figures or 4 figures.